Welcome to Week and Geek, your new comics preview for October 1st. I'm Mike Ortiz.
And I'm the Chris Brown.
What do you got?
Well, I'm going to lead off here with a book that ordinarily probably would be a top pick. We're going to shake it up a little bit. We're going to mention it first because I love this book. I got another one for a top pick that I'm a little excited about. Yeah. But This God Hates Astronauts was an awesome first issue. We read it when it was, the webcomic, and then I bought the hardcover and kickstarted that. Just really, really fun stuff. In that first issue, they've got a one-page or a two-page spread rather in the middle that's kind of a recap of the first three issues. That was the hardcover. In case you missed it, but you could still. I feel like it was very much a place where you could jump right on. It's got all the fun of that original series. He's very clearly trying to build more of a mythos than he was when he was just having fun and doing nonsense. Really, this book was one of those things where. There were about one or two guys where I knew they'd like it and just put it in their hands and said, you know what? If you don't like it, bring it back next week. I'll give you your money back. Because I knew they weren't going to. I mean, I'm certainly not one to give away money. So I knew they'd be back. And one of those guys straight up, he was like, dude, love it. I only could read half of it. I said, why? And he's like, well, because I know I'm not getting another one for a month. So I'm going to read the other half when I know I got more coming. I'm like, all right, man. He's like, it was just too good. It was too, and he came back and bought a second copy for his girlfriend. Wow. Because he didn't want her stealing his. Really, really fun stuff. Basically you've got NASA trying to prevent the astronaut farmers from launching their silos. It's going to start an intergalactic war because Admiral Tiger eating a cheeseburger was killed by one of these astronaut farmers. And which is one of the kind of the backup stories that you got in the hardcover. And then they kind of put that in here as the first few pages of the first issue. Just fun stuff. Ryan's art is awesome. The writing is fun. I mean, this is just such a fun book. I love it. Next up, I've got, this is Thor #1.
Lady Thor.
I kind of like how Mjolnir is crossing the H and also the O.
Yeah.
That's some nice cover treatment. Can you see it? Is it right? Is it there? Is it right about there?
Somewhere around there.
Looks kind of neat. Looks kind of fun. This was one of those things that I had fallen off of Thor just because I was trying to read so much and it just got away from me. But I really enjoy Jason Aaron's writing. And this is, they're doing something different. We were left off with Thor not being able to pick up Mjolnir at the end of Original Sin. You're starting to see that in some of the other books. Marvel already sent me my party variants for Axis, so I've already read that last night. He's running around with a, big axe. He no longer has the hammer. So now I want to find out what's going on here. And I want to find out who the woman is and how this was done in place. I mean, at first it was kind of very much, I feel like the announcement was made to be a gimmick. You announce on The View that it's going to be a woman, and everyone, what? And you can't just turn, what is it? Thor's just going to, lose his stuff and be a chick? Like, what's going on? No. Jason Aaron clearly has a story in play. They say he's already introduced the character. Just chill out and let it play out. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it's going to play out. The art here looks incredible, too.
As far as the... Who is that? The predictions that, Thor is just going to be back. Well, as I recall, isn't the premise of this book like a Thor in the future as well?
Is that, so they had that going on.
Thor, at least, I mean, that was, his original idea was you saw Thor in the past, Thor in the present, Thor in the future. So, if he's already showing a Thor in the future wielding Mjolnir, he's going to get it back. They're not trying to trick you otherwise. This is the question of how does he get it back?
Right, right. So, but the art, this guy I've never really heard of before, Russell Dauterman. I don't know.
Odd choice for Thor.
Looks good,
though.
Cartoony.
Cartoony,
but it has a little bit of that, kind of fantasy element. Like the coloring and inking kind of reminds me of, who is it? He's done a bunch of covers and things for Neil Gaiman. Vess. It's got like a Charles Vess quality to it. Obviously, I'm not straight up comparing the guy to Charles Vess, but the inkings and inks and the colors kind of look that way.
Very D&D looking.
Yeah. Next up, we got another book that Marvel wanted to stir the pot with. Marvel went out and announced that Captain America is going to be black, and everyone went, "What? No. The Falcon is going to be Captain America. Captain America's long-term partner, who's been in the book, is going to pick up the shield. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh yeah, Sam Wilson's a black guy. Okay, so what?
It's Cap's second sidekick to take on the mantle when he can.
Right, but again, Falcon's never been a sidekick. He's always been his partner.
You could argue that. I don't recall the title being Falcon and Captain America. So
Well, it was Captain America and Falcon. It was, but again, more of a
Yeah.
partner than a sidekick.
All right.
I think they've already kind of tipped their hands on a lot of what's going on here
Mhm.
because you're already seeing Steve as an old man in so many other books. Again, I've already read Axis #1, in which Sam is running the Avengers and things are going on. But there you go. So by the end, it looks like he picks it up. You know, this book is perhaps just sort of dealing with what are we going to do when we can't deal with Steve anymore. Steve's an old man. You know, I kind of like the idea of Steve running the show from behind because he's still a military mind, even though he's an old guy. And the military often employs these older gentlemen to help them out with things.
Right.
You know, I had an older guy that used to come into the store. He'd never tell me what he did, but he would disappear for months at a time. And he'd tell me, like, old Batman's about a Batman 49 from him. He was working for the military doing something overseas, but he wouldn't talk about it. Who knows? He might have been doing nothing just as an old guy, like stirring the pot. But he might have been up to no good, too.
If he talked about it, he might have had to kill you.
Yeah, very true. Good point. Good point. Next up, this is an Icon book. So this is an imprint of Marvel. It's another Jason Aaron book. This is Jason Aaron's Men of Wrath. So this is probably, you know, he went over, made Southern Bastards, which looked awesome, and Marvel was like, well, what'd you do that for? You know, we got an imprint specifically for that kind of thing because we don't want you leaving. Yeah, well, Image has got a good thing going. So this looks like a non-superhero book. I'm not even sure what the premise is. Looks like kind of another small townish, you know, bullies.
Maybe this is Northern Bastards.
Perhaps. Men of Wrath or Northern Bastards, published by Icon and Marvel. And I forgot to mention the art is Ron Garney.
Yeah.
Who's originally came to my attention when he and Mark Waid were doing Captain America, and then they stopped that and did The Heroes Reborn because they had the hot artist, and it was like, well, what about that guy? That guy was awesome. He may not be as sexy as the Image guys, but come on. Next up, I think this is perhaps my only DC in the stack this week. This one I'm willing to give a try. You know, obviously I'm not a huge, you know, Batman fan or DC, but Gotham was good. We were just talking about Gotham before we started rolling. And now we've got Becky Cloonan doing Gotham Academy. So this is new characters. There's certainly going to be some Batman allusions, and the headmaster looks like Ra's al Ghul. It's not, but it certainly looks like it. That's weird. But there's going to be a bunch of kids and kind of, you know, it's almost like their version of Wolverine and the X-Men, but it's not Batman.
Is this a continuity book?
I believe it is a continuity book. I don't think it's New 52, so it is a continuity book. There's going to be a group that's like the Circle of the Bat or something, and they're going to be throwing characters in. So who is this? Is that Bruce? That looks like Bruce.
Looks like Bruce.
So it is continuity. They're inserting some new characters, and Becky Cloonan's artwork is fantastic. Really like it. I think it looks like some fun stuff. Kind of a different thing, and hopefully that attracts some new readers. Now I've got a book by Paul Jenkins and Ramon Box. This just looked like fun to me. This is issue number 1 of 6 of Fiction Squad. So this, I think, spins out of one of their, or is similar to their fairy tale thing that they had going over at Boom. But this is sort of like detectives going through all the fairy tale lands and kind of trying to solve some mysteries and things. Like, you know, somebody has murdered Humpty Dumpty, you know, pushed him off the wall. This guy's got to come and figure it out. Nothing too new, nothing we totally haven't seen before. We've seen these things, but it looks cartoony, it looks fun, and, you know, the fables and everything never really go out of style.
Yeah.
And they're in public domain, so it's easy to grab them and do what you want.
You don't have to pay anybody.
Yeah, that's always appealing to publishers. Next, I've got issue number 2 of The Fade Out. This was a book I really, really enjoyed. This was, Ed Brubaker doing the screenwriter who kind of gets caught into a murder, like a murder mystery. A girl that he knew from a party the night before, he finds her dead, and then thinks, well, I'm just going to get the hell out of here and let it be someone else's problem, and they'll solve it. And then he watches everyone start to brush it under the rug. Like, well, wait a minute. I can't let the girl's murder not be solved at all and them treat it like it wasn't even a murder, that it was something No. So now he's starting to kind of get involved. I heard someone else compare it to Sunset Boulevard. I didn't get a strong Sunset Boulevard-y kind of thing out of it, but I can see it. You know, the screenwriter, of course, the Sunset Boulevard starts with the old screenwriter's death. It moves its way backward. So then, of course, that's been stolen time and time again. Face down in the pool and narrating your own death. Good stuff, though. I really enjoyed the fade out. I kind of wish they were doing the magazine size on all the issues
Yeah.
instead of just that number one, because I don't know, it was better for me to read it that way.
Yeah.
I liked it that way.
That's too bad.
And I had no problem paying the extra money for it, But maybe some other people did. Next up, we got Nailbiter, number 6. This we ended the previous story arc. Now, admittedly, I haven't read issue 5 yet. That was supposed to kind of get us up to speed on what had happened to our one detective who was trying to figure out what had happened, and he had been held kidnapped, and he was tortured in this under this cemetery, and the mystery was unraveling and such. So I haven't figured out how they kind of resolved that or where they got to. But this is beginning a new story arc. I think this book is great fun. Trade paperback is also out this week, so you could also pick that up and then roll right into it. I like how Image often does that.
Yeah.
In the past there was a kind of a little trend where they were selling that trade paperback for $9.99, and you could also pick up the next issue for 99 cents.
Right.
And they realized the $9.99 was working well enough and keep the book at $3. So.
Yeah.
Next up, this is Peter Panzerfaust, issue 21. I've not read a single issue of this arc. I'm completely behind, on this arc here. I'm trying to get caught up. I will eventually. This is a book I was really, really enjoying. I just didn't want to leave it out of the stack because I really enjoy it. I like the idea of Peter Pan in World War II, and it feels more like a period piece about World War II where there's vaguely familiar characters than it does a reimagining of Peter Pan. And I think that's why I like it. If it was just a reimagining of Peter Pan, I don't know that it would have had me for this long. Next up, this is another book that's often in the top. I was complaining a few months ago, about a direction they had started to take. This is The Walking Dead number 132, subtitled Happiness. Of course, I had to read this one this morning, get into it, see what was going on. Because I was a little frustrated a few issues ago when it looked like the dead were going to talk. Didn't like that. A couple people suggested that maybe the guy was crazy, and I said, well, then that's crappy writing, because we shouldn't hear them. If I can read the dialogue of something that's not actually happening, that's poor writing. The fourth wall is viewing things through the eyes of God, and essentially I'm seeing everything that everyone's seeing and hearing. It's written there. It happened. And it did happen. There are people whispering, murmuring, or something whispering, murmuring, and in true fashion, it's not exactly what it looked like. And even when it wasn't exactly what it looked like, and more of what I was hoping it was going to be, wasn't exactly what it looked like or what I hoped it was going to be.
Cool.
Kind of neat. I'm pleased with the way it went. We're good. We're safe. All that wine and I was doing, we're good. I brought some cheese with the wine, and I settled the issue, and we're okay.
Nice.
So that's the bulk of my stack. What do you got?
Well, I'm going to start off with Batman Eternal number 26. This is the halfway point.
Oh, wow.
26 issues in. It looks like they may actually continue after the initial year. There's been rumor of that, but there's a lot of pieces in play on this book. I did finally get completely caught up. They've introduced Spoiler.
Cool.
Hush is now entered the picture. He seems like he's the one who's kind of behind the scenes running the show. He's probably not. I'm sure there's more twists.
You're only at the halfway point.
Some of the people who we thought were good turned out to be bad. Some of the people who were bad turned out to be bad, but not as bad as we thought.
Well, you're at the midpoint.
Yeah.
We were watching the season premiere of Castle last night, and Kelly was like, oh, "What is he dead?" I'm like, "The show is called Castle."
Right.
And
I'm impressed by how well they're keeping all of these. It's hard to kind of summarize at this point because there's a lot of storylines going on.
Well, you got a lot
Gordon's
of writers.
Still in jail. Yeah. Gordon's still in jail, although they found evidence to show that he wasn't responsible. We've got the Penguin and Falcone kind of in jail.
Okay.
We meet the crime boss that was there before Falcone. We meet who may be the next crime boss, who is someone who we've seen before that you wouldn't expect to be in that role. So there's a lot of pieces in play, and this is they're doing a really nice job telling one big story. It certainly seems like they're trying to make or increase the chaos in Gotham for some effect. Possibly tied into the supernatural aspect that was going on. You've got demons and souls underneath Arkham trying to raise up Deacon Blackfire, who I think was from that old cult miniseries from years ago. You've got martial law declared in Gotham. So yeah, really, really interesting stuff. A lot of stuff going on. We still don't really know entirely. Every time you think they've said, okay, this is what's going on, A few issues later, they go, that's not quite it. So they're keeping me guessing, which is good and not an easy thing to do.
Okay.
And unfortunately, a lot of stories this big do have a tendency to crap out at the end. But we got 26 issues to get to that end.
Marvel.
So yeah, at least so far, all been pretty good, and I've been able to keep everything straight, which is unexpected because there's a lot of characters in the Batman universe. You really forget if you don't read all the Batman books, which I don't. You forget how many people there are, but they're basically trying to put them all in here.
Okay.
The only weird thing about this is, even though this is a very big kind of epic Batman story, Joker hasn't shown up. Neither has the Riddler. Riddler probably because he was in that year 0 and they think he's overexposed. And the Joker, that's always the question. Is the Joker going to show up in this or not? So, but good stuff. I've really been enjoying it. Next up, we got Justice League number 34. This is Jeff Johns. It looks like a fill-in by Scott Collins. Lex Luthor's on the team. He is a member of the Justice League because he knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman. And as Batman has
so he blackmailed his way on the team?
Basically.
Okay.
He hasn't revealed to the rest of the Justice League that, although Batman has revealed to Wonder Woman and Superman that he knows. And they've adopted the Luthor's obviously got some sort of plan. So the keep your enemies close thing. So yeah, that's how this plays out. You know, we'll see. I think the rest of the Justice League doesn't really know why it's just being kept amongst the small number. Lex did supposedly save the world. I mean, they kind of did what they did with Norman Osborn in the Secret Invasion.
Right.
So the world thinks Lex is a grand superhero, and every grand superhero.
But again, he can't take over the world if someone else does.
True. That's what.
That doesn't make him the good guy.
Yeah, but nobody else knows that. But yeah, I mean, and that was a clever way to kind of bring it in that he figures out Batman's identity, and Batman's just like, until we can take care of this, we have to do what he wants.
You know what I want to say is, we as human beings we should count ourselves lucky that we have comic books, TV, and movies. Because the characters in comic book, TV, and movies have never watched comic book, TV, or movies, and has made them incredibly stupid.
Yeah. Well,
they never see anything coming.
They're too busy fighting crime. If we had superpowers, we wouldn't be watching TV either.
Yeah, but I think I'd know what's happening in the first act.
Yeah, could be.
I'd like to think so.
They have different rules of fiction there.
Okay.
They read stories about people like us.
That's be awfully boring.
Yeah, no kidding. That's why they have to go out and start all these crimes. If someone just gave them a good book, all of a sudden crime would go down in the DC universe. Next up, we got Fantastic Four Annual 1. This is continuing James Robinson's run on this book, which has been great. Valeria, very disappointed in her father, has gone off to hang out with Uncle Doom. And Sue's not too fond of this idea, but Valeria's hyper intelligent, so you can't really.
She's got a plan.
But
and again, how seriously? She's like 6. I don't care how smart you are. Go to your room.
You can't tell a child to go to the room when they know how to make a matter transporter.
You can. It doesn't mean they're going to.
But in any event, she went off to Uncle Doom. She's decided that she's going to just try and reform Doom. Because even though she's hyper intelligent, she also is still a child.
Right.
So she doesn't realize that people don't work that way. A really smart 6-year-old is still a 6-year-old.
His last name is Doom.
Von Doom. That wasn't his fault. You can blame his daddy for that.
Well, you know what? I used to know a gay man with the last name Handelsman. Works for his sister, too.
Yeah. But in any event, yeah, this is Sue goes to Latveria to try and get Valeria back. And, things ensue. And some fighting.
I would hope so.
Because there's always going to be fighting. Next up, we got Death of Wolverine, number 3. I really like the first 2 issues of this.
I did too.
Wolverine has been told, hey, lay low until we can figure out how to take care of this healing factor thing. If you even remotely try to be a superhero in any way, shape, or form, it's going to kill you. Even popping your claws.
He's laying low, but he's still inviting trouble.
Well, yeah.
You want to come get me? I'm just going to stay here.
He's laying low, but also everyone's just coming to get him.
Right.
We had Kitty Pryde show up at the end of last issue. A nice little nod to the Kitty Pryde and Wolverine from years ago. But what does Wolverine do when his main superpower of I heal is gone? because that's pretty much. I know they did that in the movie, kind of briefly, but yeah, his entire modus operandi is, I can't get hurt, and if I
Right.
get hurt, I'm back in 5 seconds. So yeah, that makes things a little tough. But it's got the cool foil etched cover and some just absolutely spectacular art from Steve McNiven.
Yeah.
And I
Really
haven't
nice
mentioned, Charles Soule, big favorite of ours, doing the writing. And these are $4.99.
He is an example of how I've always said, and we both said this, it's not any character that's bad ever. It's how well they're written.
Oh, yeah.
And I am not particularly a big Wolverine fan, and I feel like a lot of the stories over the years have become derivative because they're, that you can't avoid that if you've got 6 titles. Because you're essentially like just almost taking all the water out of the well. What are you going to have left if you're just mining that for so much and you've told stories that probably don't even need to be told just for the sake of trying to put another book on the stands? But here Charles Soule comes along with a near impossible task of, here is your job. You are going to write our new gimmick. We're going to kill our most popular character because we're going to sell a crap ton of them, and we're going to put a foil etched cover on it. How do you really overcome something that clearly is a gimmick? You write a really good story.
Yeah.
And that's what he's done. I mean, that he really is that talented as a writer.
And this time, like I said, they've done the healing factor thing in the movie already. They've done stuff like that before. And the trick is just to find a tone, find a through line. He's got this idea that if people see blood in the water on Wolverine, they're going to start coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
And so yeah, some interesting stuff. It's nothing original, but it's a new blend of old elements into something that feels original, which great stuff. And that's really what kind of makes mainstream superhero comics work. You're not going to get real change. You're not going to get anything terribly original in a character there's been 1,000 stories written about. Every once in a while, you'll get a twist on it that makes you go, I didn't see that coming.
Right.
And when that happens, it brings a smile to a jaded old nerd's face, and that's good stuff. Next up, we've got Green. Actually, I'll start off with the first chapter. There were a couple books that almost made the top this week. Stuff that I've just been kind of excited for. And the first one here is Green Lantern New Gods Godhead. And this is a new Green Lantern crossover.
Well, I noticed it says, with these 7 rings, I will at last bring Darkseid to his knees. So Pinhead is trying to fight Darkseid? Because that's very clearly the puzzle box with rings in it.
Other people are saying it's a cosmic cube.
Infinity all right.
So yeah, it's it's a crossover between the New Gods, who we've not seen much of in the New 52, and the Green Lanterns. This ties into what had happened in the Lights Out, where Kyle Rayner accesses the Source Wall. And of course, anything that deals with the Source Wall eventually deals with the New Gods. So Highfather and the other New Gods are going to, from the look of it, they're going to be coming and trying to collect up the lantern rings and use them for their own purposes to defeat Darkseid or whatever. So yeah, this is really the first. We've gotten hints of it, but this is the first real New Gods themed story in the New 52, and I'm really curious about that.
It does very much feel like an Infinity Gauntlet.
It is.
They're just trying to get the different colors of ring.
Different rings, and then even the issue of you've got the 7 rings. Isn't that just a White Lantern then?
Right.
So yeah, but again, all of this stuff has been seen before. So let's see and Charles Soule is one of the writers on this too. But yeah, it looks like they've got little bits by all of the Green Lantern stuff and a really nice double gatefold.
I like that because I'm a nerd like that.
So yeah, we got Van Jensen, Justin Jordan, Robert Venditti, Charles Soule, and Cullen Bunn. Pretty much everybody writing a Green Lantern book is a part of this. So yeah, let's see what they do. The New Gods have been around for ages. Can they put a spin on this idea of collecting the pieces to make a more powerful thing? Can they make it feel differently than what they did with White Lanterns? We'll see. And but at least we get some new God stuff that we haven't seen before. So the life equation, not the anti-life equation. Interesting stuff. So that's chapter 1 of the Godhead series. Chapter 2 is in Green Lantern number 35. This is Robert Venditti and Philip Tan. All of these have these kind of interesting covers where you've got like a single image against a flat color with some type on the side, a stripe across the bottom, all just to kind of make them look a little different and unify the crossover. The Green Lantern crossovers have been pretty solid so far. Right. This new Green Lantern post Jeff Johns era has been pretty good. The Lights Out I thought was pretty solid.
Feels like every year they're crossing them over though, like which doesn't leave you a lot of time to tell stories that aren't involved in the crossover.
Very true, except they did that stuff with there was just a crossover between Green Lantern and Green Lantern Corps, and let the other books kind of do their own thing. So they're playing it back and forth. How it all fits together, we'll see. But yeah, you're right. The idea of especially the Green Lantern title itself, the main book, has really been very crossover driven. But so far they've been good.
Isn't there also a monster Halloween variant for that one this week? I think. They've been doing that on most of them.
I think that's true.
I don't remember what the image of that is, but.
So, but yeah, Green Lantern. Like I said, it's been good stuff for quite a while. Check it out. Next up, another one that could have been the top pick, Guardians 3000. Now, I was a big fan of the original Guardians of the Galaxy characters, the ones from the 30th century, back in the 70s when they kind of crossed over with the Avengers. I never really read the 90s Jim Valentino version.
Okay.
But the thing that really kind of makes me excited about this one, other than its characters, it's a group that I liked a lot and that I missed. It's Dan Abnett on the writing chores, and Dan Abnett is the guy who basically gave us the Guardians of the Galaxy that we now know.
Right.
Along with Andy Lanning, they were writing partners. This is him just going solo. He did great stuff. All of that Marvel Annihilation stuff was fantastic. It led to what we've got today with Guardians of the Galaxy.
And Yondu was originally in this team.
Yondu was originally in this team.
In the movie and that stuff. So I think they're definitely smart to bring him back. So there's a character in there that people are familiar with.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Guardians of the Galaxy. They adopted the name for the other team because it's a cool name.
Right.
But, this is the original group. I don't know how much you need to know about that original storyline. Hopefully you don't need to know much about the 90s version because, like I said, I know. But Marvel's been pretty good.
You can always pick up back issues of the 90s version of comics and more.
True. But Marvel overall lately has been pretty good about giving things a fresh start so that, you'll learn stuff as you're going. I don't know if they got a little summary page in the front. They really don't. But, yeah, this was almost a top pick because love the Guardians and love what Dan Abnett did on the Marvel Cosmic stuff to date. Looks like this has got an Alex Ross cover too, with the original, original Defenders of the Galaxy, but they were the Guardians of the Galaxy. So that's my stack.
All right, well, I guess that brings me to the top of my stack here. This is, I feel like we've almost been dancing around this one. So we've got Legendary Star-Lord and now Thanos. The Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet, and they're dealing with Darkseid and that over there. We're dealing with the Guardians 3000. A lot of these things do really work in trends, which are fun. And, I love this Star-Lord book right now. I mean, granted, I wasn't a huge fan prior to the movie. Watched that movie, it blew me away. So when these books came out, I did exactly what they wanted me to do. Well, I'll bite. This book has been so much fun, to the point where they were actually in last issue, issue 3, Star-Lord has got this spaceship with kind of like a little, computer entity in there that's controlling things and talking to him. And the computer entity seemed to have an affinity for the Aquabats. And so they were singing Super Rad together, which I thought was awesome. Wow. I really enjoyed that. This is some fun stuff. And at the end of that, he even says, now I really got to go for the mission, which is Thanos. And Star-Lord's kind of got a little relationship with Kitty Pryde, which they've inserted in there. And there's been some
popping up in the all-new X-Men.
Has it? Okay. And there she is.
Holograms over great distances.
Yeah. Which I like it, though. It works. This has just been such a great book. I've seen Sam Humphrey's name on so many other things. But, it hasn't been one of those names that have caught me yet where I'm like, this guy. I like what he's doing here. I think he's telling a really fun book. I like the art. The art is a little cartoony, but it works for me. It's fun. And, Thanos. So how can you go wrong there? So that's my stack. My top pick.
My top pick is an oldie but a goodie. This is Miracle Man number 11. Now, every issue of this has made it into my stack so far of the Marvel reissue of this story.
Is this still written by the original writer?
This is written by the original writer with...
Got to be getting to the end of his run now. Huh?
Well, this is the beginning of book 3.
Okay.
And this is where the kind of the legend of Miracle Man really comes from.
Okay.
This third volume, book 3, with all of it with gorgeous art by John Tolkien.
So 15's the last one of his run then, where all the craziness happens.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is leading to that. This is leading to that big kind of epic battle that had never really been seen before in comics.
Right.
Really kind of chilling, terrifying stuff. All the groundwork for what Alan Moore kind of resolves in this series really starts to get laid out here. He puts together the pieces. This is all stuff that was done after things like Watchmen had come out, after Swamp Thing had come out. You know, it started at the beginning of his career, then it took a break.
Okay.
Then Eclipse started reprinting it and then publishing new material. And this they had started doing the new material during book 2, but this is really where it forms. You could tell in book 2 that it was this weird combination of early Alan Moore and then coming back and finishing a story many years later with a different tone.
Okay.
The artists switched around a lot. There was a lot of kind of mix-up in between. All this is art by John Tolkien. All of it. This really reads as one great piece. And this is really what made Miracle Man Miracle Man. This is the beginning of what is kind of the best of this particular character. The artwork's gorgeous. They've done a great job recoloring it. All of it in the spirit of the original painted color. The lettering looks great. They've got all this backup stuff. They're reproducing the original pencils. So, you know, you get these nice DVD-style bonus features of the making of. And yeah, if you've been waiting for this big, epic Miracle Man conclusion, this is where it begins. And I've been waiting for this, and I love this book. This has been a fantastic book and a nice trip down memory lane. And I still remember reading the original, I don't remember which issue it was, if it was actually still, if the numbering is changing, and just seeing this tone shift and seeing Alan Moore kind of like let you realize he's got his plan, he's got the ending. I still think Miracle Man, on the whole, is a better work than Watchmen when all is said and done. And this is the beginning of the end of it, and I can't wait for the.
Now that's the beginning of the end of his run.
Of his run.
16, they're just going to reprint Neil Gaiman. They're going to work all the way up until he finished, and then he's going to keep going.
Right. So he did. Alan Moore did 3 books of Miracle Man. This is the beginning of book 3. Neil Gaiman wrote 1 book called Golden Age, and then he has a Silver Age and a Dark Age book. So each one of them is doing a trilogy. The Neil Gaiman stuff finished his first book.
Okay.
And then they actually produced the first issue of the second book, but it was never published.
Interesting.
And then after that, they're going to actually finish the original
Silver Age
run.
and Dark Age stuff. Okay.
And after that, who knows?
Then do whatever they want, I guess.
Although I suspect that they'll just leave Miracle Man as its own thing and then just publish new Marvel Man stuff, because there's no way this book could possibly fit in the Marvel continuity.
Okay.
You know, it would be shoehorned in. Just make it a different character with the same name.
Gotcha.
If they want to incorporate
Make him their version of the Sentry.
Right.
Just bring it back and solve that.
Exactly.
Because the Sentry always, you know, with as much power as he had, always felt that way, even though he doesn't have the Shazam element.
And this would basically be Marvel's Captain Marvel, because he was a ripoff of Captain. I mean, a very, very direct ripoff of Captain Marvel.
Right.
You know, unapologetic.
Even though Captain Marvel is seen as a ripoff of Superman, which isn't the case at all.
Right.
He gets ripped off. Nobody cares. DC then didn't go sue them for ripping off that character.
That's because it was in England.
And then that has Marvel on the title, and the whole thing makes my head hurt.
It was Marvel Man, and then Marvel
sued them.
Well, it turns out Marvel never actually sued.
Oh, they didn't. Okay.
No, that was the publisher preemptively decided, I don't want to risk this, and at least that's the way the story goes now.
Okay.
That may be edited now that Marvel owns it.
Right.
But who knows? But yeah, Miracle Man number 11. The beginning of the absolutely fantastic final chapter of Alan Moore.
Great stack of books this week.
Yeah,
lots of really great stuff.
Still more good stuff on the racks.
Absolutely.
This was a big week with good stuff.
So be sure to check those out. And that is your weekly.